concept of prison is often subjected to a lot of criticism in the modern world. Intellectuals argue about the benefits of incarceration and believe that merely locking away criminals in a box is not a viable solution, since prisons do not reform a person. The conditions in most prisons are so bad that after being physically and mentally tortured by guards and other inmates, prisoners become psychologically unhinged and or either too broken to rejoin normal society, or become even more determined to continue the criminal path when they leave prison. It is not every day that death row inmates successfully escape from a maximum security prison. If you watch Sylvester and Arnold's Escape Plan movie, you probably know how well guarded modern prisons usually are nowadays. But in 1984, 6 prisoners spectacularly busted out of a Mecklenburg Correctional Center, which was a maximum security prison. On this episode of The Big Escape, we dive into this story and its crazy escape. This is The Big Escape. This story begins at the Mecklenburg Correctional Center. It was constructed in 1976. It cost a whopping $20 million to build. The prison was made using state-of-the-art technology at the time and was designed to be the U.S. most sophisticated and unbreakable prison at that time. But however, 6 death row inmates proved that nothing is impossible if you're smart enough. Lyndon Briley, James Briley, Earl Clangton, Dirk Peterson, Willie Leroy Jones, and Lem Tungle made history after their daring escape from the Mecklenburg Correctional Center. Each one of these 6 inmates was on the death row hall. All of them were scheduled to be executed at some point in time. But on May 31st, 1984, with little more than a stretcher, a blanket, and a portable TV, they pulled off the largest escape of death row inmates in U.S. history. Brother James and Linwood Briley were the ringleaders. 4 others, Lem Tungle, Earl Clangton, Dirk Peterson, and Willie Lord Turner, would join the Dash of Freedom. The plan started with careful, months-long scrutiny of the guards, their shifts and habits, even their clothing. But on the afternoon of May 31st, 1984, the 6 inmates got haircuts and close shaves to make them appear like a bunch of college grads on their first job interviews to blend in on the outside. They made their move around 8 p.m., overpowering the guards and opening the cells in one block, outfitted with uniforms and riot gear that they found in the storeroom. The men put the portable TV on a stretcher and covered it with a blanket, pretending to be guards. They radioed an emergency call and said that they needed a van to remove a bomb from the death row hall. To spice the story up even more, they used fire extinguishers to douse the bomb as they scurried from the building into the waiting getaway van. It took half an hour for the prison officials to realize that they had been bamboozled and tricked. The 6 extremely dangerous death row inmates was now at large. The news spread sheer terror through the community. People were afraid to go outside, even out of their homes, out of their workplace, everywhere, scared to go to the grocery store. All 6 were cold-blooded killers, but the Briley brothers were in a class by themselves. They seemed to kill for fun. The eldest, Linwood, started his murder career in 1971 at 16 with the shooting of a recently widowed neighbor as she hung laundry in the backyard. When police pinned the crime on him, he nonchalantly said she would have died soon anyway. Now, all 6 men breathing fresh, free air. They stopped in the town of Warrenton to decide their next move and found out that all they had were very different opinions about what to do next. Thus, they decided to go their separate ways. With little genius, the inmates had originated from them being together, and their luck started to run out as soon as they got free. Earl and Derek were caught the very next day. They had taken their freedom for granted and were brazenly enjoying cheese and wine at a department store while wearing the jackets of the prison guards with their badges torn off. Liam, Willie, and the Breeley brothers had decided to stick out a little longer. Others got off at Philadelphia with their uncle, got them a job in the garage. Liam and Willie decided to go to Canada since they believed that the death row inmates would not be extradited there. They got as far as Vermont, after which Liam was caught robbing a convenience store. Willie was cold, flea-bitten, and starving. Thus he called his mother, who suggested that him turn himself in. The Breeley brothers were caught after a barbecue at their uncle's house. Police traced a phone call that they had in New York. Eventually, all 6 inmates was back in custody, and the freedom ride was over. Now, all 6 death row inmates was back in the death row hall where they belonged. Their entire plan had been documented by the fellow prisoners. Dennis Stockton. Dennis had planned to run away, but got scared. He still had hope that his appeal would work out, but we all know how that worked. It didn't. He documented the entire plan at his executions, minute by minute. Documented was published in the Virginia Pilot. Dennis saw the same fate as his friends did. His appeal was rejected, and he was executed in 1995 after the escape. The prison saw various lawsuits, reforms, and a serious loss in morality. It is suggested multiple times that the prison should be shut down. So, in 2012, the prison was finally demolished. The prisoners achieved legendary fame due to their different efforts of Dennis. There have been prison breaks throughout history, but none of them were as well documented as the Mecklenburg prison break. The story is highly interesting because we have access to all the details, which allow us to look into how prisoners scrutinize their surroundings, develop and execute their master plan. This is a story for the ages. This prison break here really had me stunned. My thoughts on this whole situation is that the prisoners should have been a little bit more guarded, being killers and all. They shouldn't have been able to have access to even move around the way they was able to. But this was 1984. But this prison break here opened the eyes to our country and our prison system. Thus, this is the only prison break where death row inmates was able to escape. But until next time, this is The Big Escape, and thank you. Guys, always remember, get into the comments section. Let us know which case you guys want us to do next. Hit that subscribe button if you guys like the content. Hit the like button as well. And so long, farewell. I'll see you next time. This is The Big Escape.